Hey there, it's Gabrielle Nicolay from SpeechKids, where we teach little kids to talk and help parents understand their little kids. And today I have a real life parent with me. Devin, welcome. Thank you for being here.
Yeah, I'm excited to be here. Happy to help.
So part of, you're actually the first interview in this series of parent interviews. And we were talking earlier and I said, I kind of think about it as like coming out of the closet. In other words, talking about kids' experiences in speech therapy, talking about when we worry about our kids and what to do about it. Because I find that there's a lot of information from experts saying you should, but we almost never hear from the receiving end of that. And so I so appreciate you being here to do that a little bit today.
Yeah, happy to be here.
Tell us before you came to me, sort of what led up to, how did this start?
Sure. So I think our son was about 15 months, and of course we're first-time parents with Elle. And just when you're at the playground, you start inevitably comparing your kid to other kids in terms of milestones. We went to our pediatrician and we started to notice that he wasn't using his words quite at the traditional time that he should. And then we kind of didn't think much about it. But then as time progressed, we started to realize, as we saw other kids his age, his peers, with much more advanced speech, we decided there might be something going on here.
And did your pediatrician flag that?
Our pediatrician was really helpful she flagged it and said, hey, at 15 months, let's keep an eye on it. Let's see what happens. Let's see how it progresses. If I don't see more speech in the next couple weeks or months, then reach back out and we'll talk about doing therapy potentially.
Okay. Yeah.
I will say one of the biggest kind of things that you'll hear that my wife and I found to be a bit frustrating was that anytime we mentioned speech to someone, they would give this kind of one-off story about, well, when, my kid didn't talk till he was 3, my kid didn't talk till he didn't even say a word until he was 2. And everyone's trying to reassure you about, and I know they mean well, but in our experience, my advice to anyone who's watching this is just to trust your instincts as a parent. It's nice to hear those things, but we found it a bit challenging. And when what we saw at home was something that we said, hey, there's something going on here. Let's investigate. So my advice in that sense would just be kind of trust your instincts as a parent. And so around 15 months, we started to realize, keep an eye on it. I think at 18 months, we did Strong Start. I don't know if your viewers are familiar with that, but it's a great program in DC that will do a full evaluation of your child to see if they qualify for any development help. So
this exists. Sorry, I'm going to just press pause just for a little PSA here. That exists in every county in the US. It is a federally mandated program for kids who are age birth to 3 years old. It's free. You are entitled to a free evaluation. You can self-refer. If you are a parent, you can refer your child. And they have a certain number of days, depending on which bureaucracy you're dealing with. It comes, faster or slower. And they may not offer services, but you can for sure get an evaluation. So sorry.
So yeah, so we went through the Strong Start evaluation, which we thought was a tremendous resource and a tremendous program. Gives you a full evaluation of your child and their development milestones and where they compare to similar age kids. For our son, it was helpful, but I think his main struggle has been expressive speech. And they use a wide range of factors to determine whether you qualify for help. So although he didn't qualify for help through their Strong Start program, it was clear that his expressive speech was far behind. And that's when we started to reach out to speech therapists to get him some help.
Yep. And so you came to me when he was, I want to say 19 months old, right?
19 months, yeah.
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 And do you remember what he sounded like at the time?
It's actually funny, in preparation for this, we went back and looked at some videos of him from February 2020, I think it's when we actually came to you. Okay. And our son was, I think, 20 months at the time, and he was only communicating, but only speaking in ah. So his fallback and his only kind of words at that point at 20 months were ah. Every now and then he could say like a da or a ba, but everything was limited to kind of 2-letter phrases with ending with an open mouth.
Yeah. And that's what I saw when I got him too. When I first saw him, he was so communicative.
Yeah.
And the good news is when you've got, a 19, 20-month-old, they're starting to recognize, oh, this is not working as well as I want it to. And this is a pitfall that people fall into because, listen, all toddlers are very frustrated people because they are experiencing, sort of developmentally in terms of their global milestones, they're experiencing their first round of real independence. So we always want to account for that, but we also want to look at, is what he wants to do commensurate with his ability to do so, and developmentally where we expect it to be? And the answer in your son's case was clearly, no, it's really not.
Yeah. And just going through the process, when we interviewed a few speech therapists, and the experience we got is everyone kind of wanted to diagnose more than kind of just evaluate. And then, so in our experience, what we really attracted us to you is that your approach was a bit different, particularly during the pandemic, in that we started the sessions with you just putting our camera up, AirPods in the ear, and you instructing us how to work with Lachlan, which to us was kind of, when you traditionally think about therapy, you think about sitting in front of a, nice recliner chair and talking to your therapist, or we didn't really expect how it was going to go, but we thought that was the way that we wanted to interact with our kid, because we wanted to learn, how do we elicit the responses? How do we talk to our son? How do we make this, better for him? So that's how our experience started. And that's what drew us to you, is that you had a different approach than the other therapists we spoke to, where you were observing and we were following your guidance to start the therapy.
Yeah. And that's such a fun, it's so much fun for me, but it's, I think, also rewarding for you guys when you started to see the benefits of that.
Yeah.
And just kind of change the way you were interacting with your son.
Exactly.
That was
first-time parents. Yeah. We didn't know what we were doing wrong or what we were doing right, especially with someone who is struggling with speech development. So just simple things like not asking questions, not asking things that the answer to, like just those little tips that you do your half hour of speech therapy, but then that we were putting those kind of advice and skills throughout the day, I think made a big difference. For as much as speech therapy was for our son, it was also, I think, for us to know how to communicate with him.
Yeah. Yeah. And so we did that parent coaching piece, which is something we call screenless coaching. I made it up during the pandemic. And then it became clear. Sometimes what happens is we do some of that and we really see kiddos start talking a lot. We saw some improvement, but then we transitioned to some more direct therapy.
Yeah, I think we did maybe 4 or 5 sessions of screenless, and then we went to 5-minute Zoom sessions where we put our son in his high chair in front of a computer. We had no idea. I don't think you had any idea if it was going to work. This was all kind of new. So we stuck him in front of the computer, and then we started with 5-minute sessions, and that was, I think, in March. And now it is, January 2021, and we're up to 15-minute sessions every morning with our son and G.
Yeah, January 22.
22, yeah.
So 10 months.
20, yeah, exactly.
Okay, so I just want, for me, it is so much fun to think about this journey, because let's say March 2021, we have by summer, we've got some 2-word kind of phrases, right? Dada up, or more book, or something like that. Okay, but fast forward another 6 to 8 months, why your toys are a little bit broken, G?
Yeah, the progress has been absolutely incredible. When we started the process, we were worried that we would be, every parent worries. It's kind of like you do your Google searches, you start worrying about things, and it's like, is my kid ever going to talk? But going through this process, I think that being able to look back at those videos in February to where he is now is just kind of night and day, and just really fun to see.
One of the things that I love in my clients is that transition in their attitude from pre-therapy to sort of post a little bit of therapy. Can you speak to that a little bit? What have you noticed about his personality, for lack of a better word?
Yeah, so I think what we're noticing now is that I think our son now understands kind of how speech works. In our sessions now, he's saying things like, that's too hard for me. I don't want to do that. We're also seeing self-moderation where he's correcting his own words because he knows that he's saying them incorrectly. And to make that transition from your son going from to now being able to say a word and self-correct, I just think has been it's just been kind of transformative and really exciting for us.
Yeah. He's such in some ways he's a little bit unique, and in other ways not at all, but his awareness, his self-awareness is really strong. And so we're able to leverage with him a lot of the tools. And in my head, I call it brain talk. It doesn't exist out, but we talk a lot about our body parts that help us talk. And so we're constantly like thanking our brains, for example, which he has totally picked up on.
Yeah. And seeing him be really proud of himself when he's, getting a word right, or, making it, I feel like he's now conscious of the improvements that he's making and he's excited about it. And I think we talked to you about this too. He goes to preschool now. And one of our big concerns with preschool is just at some point he'd kind of look around and see that the other kids were a lot farther down the line and maybe be discouraged from speaking when he started to realize that, he was a bit behind. But, you've talked to some of the teachers. What I think is the most exciting thing from speech and what we've really taken away is he is super confident at school, talking, contributing, and to see that from a kid who was going as his only words, a year ago is really cool to see.
Yeah, it's so fun. It anyway, never gets old for me either. Yeah. It's such a delight to work with your son. I have to say, just from my end, it's also a delight to work with you guys as parents, because you were willing to put your worry on the line and take action. And I just think, and you were willing to take action very soon, right? You didn't sit on it and sort of stew, like maybe it's a problem, maybe it's not a problem, maybe it's a problem, maybe it's not a problem. And you spoke to that earlier in terms of like, if you're asking the question, go get some help. And I'm going to repeat that as I just did. But your involvement with him and your willingness to see him and who he is and how he works and, his quirks and his loveliness, and enjoy him, that has made a huge difference in his progress too.
Yeah, and I have to give a lot of credit to my wife, because to my point earlier, sometimes it's easy as a first-time parent to, talk to a grandma or talk to a friend that you really trust. And when they say, I don't think he needs speech therapy, why would you do that? He's so young, and it's easy to start convince yourself. And any parent has a hard time saying, my kid needs some help. He might have a problem. That's a hard step to take. So I definitely give all the credit to my wife when she is not too proud to say, something's going on. And if something's not going on, then we'll get that confirmed, but we should follow up on this. So I would encourage any parent to, again, trust your instincts, and your child best. So when you see something that you don't think is, exactly right or off, I would just follow up with it, would be my advice, particularly with speech.
Yeah. That communication, unsolved communication issues only add sort of behavior gets added on top of it. And we were seeing a little bit of that with your son at first. And we see spikes of it now, when he says that's too hard for me. The good news is, and you talked about this a little bit too, is as a result of being in regular therapy, speech therapy, he now knows in his bones, there are things I didn't used to be able to do, and now I can do them. And he is like cognitively aware of that fact, right?
Yeah.
And so when he comes across something that he can't do, and this happens in his play, this happens, I'm sure, at school, he's like, oh, I don't know how to do that yet.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think the confidence factor has just been incredible. And then also just in addition to, it's like 50% learning the tools that I need and how to do things. And then the 50% confidence in being able to do them, that kind of blends together in the speech we've done, that we think has just been phenomenal.
Yeah.
And it is funny, I must say, it's like, you talk to some people and it's like, what do you even do at speech therapy? What do you just say words and he repeats them? It's just kind of this, people just have this weird view about it and maybe some fear about doing it. But I think once you do it and start to see the improvement with your kid, it's kind of just, it's been awesome for us.
Yeah.
And now what we hear now that our son is speaking a lot better is, do you still need to do speech therapy? You know, like, so we hear that a lot now too, from friends and family. And it's kind of like, well, yeah, he's speaking really great now, and still has a lot of work to do, but you know, why fix up the, you know,
I always say we don't ever want to like walk the kid up to the cliff and, you know, and not make sure he's got a parachute on.
Yeah.
So, thank you so much for doing this, Devin. This has
Yeah,
been,
of course.
I hope, really helpful for people who have watched it, but also really fun just to like kind of come full circle and see how much progress your boy has made. He is one of the lights of my life. I see him 5 days a week. And on the days that I don't, I really miss him. So
yeah, we love hearing that. And I know he loves seeing you, and we certainly love seeing you guys at SpeechKids as well. So
thank you.
all right, thank you.